you.
I knew he was Australian. I knew he had spent time in Taiwan and Hong Kong. I knew he was fluent in Chinese.
I think his influence has been quite astonishing. I mean, I know Scorsese had Chungking Express just playing as a loop, you know.
Yeah, I was curious how you got to work with Wong Kar-Wai and how you met him.
Why do you want to know?
I was just curious.
Hey, you go and read my books. Go fuck off.
徐飞在他的 team 里，边缘人他们在跳舞了，多好玩。
Thank you.
其實有啲嘢想請教你。
你點解咁樣問嘅？
冇，見個款幾骨子，諗住買一個送俾太太。
如果一模一樣，佢會唔會唔中意㗎？
Cut， 貴姐啊，快啲謝。Wendy。哦。
I met Chris 10 years ago for my second film, Days of Being Wild. And over the years, we've been working for 5 films already together. At first, we tried to communicate through scripts, but it didn't turn out very well. And now we are talking about our films through music or books, beers, or other things.
As you probably found as you look around, as you filmed it, or even as you just come through it as a traveler, you know, it's one of the most intense cities in the world, you know. So I think it energizes everyone, you know, and everyone's energized in a certain way that we try to reflect, you know, in our filmmaking. I think that it is, you know, all filmmaking is a reflection of where it comes from.
Before Wong Kar-Wai, most people thought of Hong Kong cinema as martial arts. I mean, that was the dominant image. And modern updates on martial arts films like John Woo's gangster films. Wong Kar-Wai has changed all that, I think, broadened it, extended it, I mean, taken it into other areas. And people now think of Wong Kar-Wai, I think, as a kind of poet almost of a certain kind of urban attitude, a certain kind of, a set of urban dreams, desires, frustrations. People seem to relate to it. People who live in cities, pretty much anywhere in the world, recognize the world that Wong Kar-Wai conjures up and inhabits. Wong Kar-Wai has been a crucial factor in Chris's development. I think that they have a very similar intuitive trial and error, let's try this and see what happens kind of approach. So they've been in rather fortuitous sync. It hasn't always worked out so well with other directors who plan more than Wong Kar-Wai or who are less intuitive, have a clearer sense of what they want. And so Chris's experiences with most other directors have been, you know, one-offs rather than the long, extended collaboration he's had with Wong Kar-Wai.
I was studying Chinese in Taiwan. We were interested in film. Somebody gave me a camera. We wanted to do a report on his work, traveled all over the south of Taiwan. And we used 8mm camera and Kodachrome film. And when we got back to Taipei to have a look at what we had, we were quite shocked to notice that the interiors were totally black, because I didn't understand that, you know, you need a certain level of light in order for the film to respond to that light. I didn't know that. The other thing was that the exteriors were incredibly beautiful, very saturated colors. You know, the rice fields were totally this incredible green with blue skies with clouds popping out of them. You know, and I just didn't see that either, and I didn't know why. So I think that's what started me off sort of getting interested in this phenomenon. So I got a camera and started sort of researching. You know, there's no film school, we just did it ourselves, and we kind of learn by our mistakes. And I think that's what started me. It was a mistake, and I think that what sort of energizes the way we work now. I've had enough! I've never thought of it as a career. I just thought of it, you know, as one period of my life. Filmmaking is just an expression of what we're doing, you know. But that's the rhetoric, you know. If you want a real answer, people in Chinese, they say, you know, the eye is high and the hand is low. Yan gao shou di. it means that you're trying for more than what you can really do at that particular time, that your abilities are not quite up to your expectations of yourself or your aspirations. And slowly, I think, whether it's in cooking or language learning or cinematography, I think slowly you try to bring the two closer together. And one day, you suddenly say something in a language that you're learning, and you didn't know you could say it. You say, oh, I didn't know I could say that. And I think that's when you've crossed over, that you've moved into that area where actually, that your abilities are actually driving your ambitions or your hopes, and that, then you're moving up.
Even though Hong Kong has this veneer of cosmopolitanism or internationalism, it's actually quite a provincial place. And the British were here for 150 years, and there's a lot of Western culture, but I think it really is only on the surface, and it's very difficult for non-Chinese or non-Hong Kong Chinese to make it in Hong Kong, especially in the Hong Kong film world. Even if you're from mainland China or from Taiwan, it's still not easy to be accepted in the Hong Kong film world. And Chris, I think, is almost the only Westerner who has been able to make a name for himself in Hong Kong cinema.
He has a very instinctive approach to cinematography. It's very much keyed to movement as much as to light, which is why I think he loves to hand-hold the camera. There's a kind of spontaneity in Chris's work that I think is rare amongst professional cinematographers, and maybe that's the core of his talent. And it's what directors like Wong Kar-Wai particularly respond to in him.
Okay.
唔係幾方便喎。唔好意思啊。
When I first met him, he's a very lousy camera operator. And over the years, I think he become better and better. But he's not so technical in a sense. He just felt what he should do, and he just do it.
Hey, neighbor.
Hey, neighbor.
And that's why people said he has created a certain style. But I think we never conscious about the style. In fact, the styles came from the way we work and the way he felt the film should be. And once we were shooting in China, that's the last day of the shootings. We have built a set in the desert, and we have to burn that set at the end. And he's so happy because he can leave that desert, and he get drunk that night. And next morning, he cannot wake up. And we have to carry him to the set. And after the scene, he was so guilty. He took off all his clothes and grabbed the camera and run into the fire and just take whatever he wants. And he said, I have to do something. I have to catch something. This is Chris.
my personal feeling about filmmaking as a cinematographer, about color in particular, that you have to personalize it. Usually I do that through the film stock and through mixing lights, mixing the color temperature of lights. You know, that's the simplest explanation of it. So I think it's just my reflection of what I see around me, but not to make it overwhelming. And I think that's why we use, for example, longer lenses sometimes. You know, a lot of people use longer lenses to intensify the closeness of the image, but we use it usually to avoid all the extraneous stuff behind the main focus of the image.
You know, there are certain conventions that one is taught in cinematography in the Hollywood system. A lot of cinematographers look back to, say, not so much the Renaissance, but say 17th or 18th century Flemish painting. They hark back to that tradition in the way they compose their images. For example, Nestor Almendros, I think, said, you know, that you had to justify all of your lighting with, you know, one single source of light. I think Sven Nykvist also does that. What Chris Doyle has done is he's thrown that all out. Here you have somebody who doesn't care where his light sources come from. They come from everywhere. Not only are the color temperatures all mixed up, like warm tungsten lighting mixing with fluorescent lighting mixing with natural daylight. A lot of times his compositions crop body parts and surface textures of inanimate objects loom very large, I think, in his compositions. It really speaks to how we live our lives today. I mean, no surprise to me that young people love his work.
If I lived in Sydney, whenever I think about Sydney, of course I see space, I see beach, I feel wind, I see, you know, the color of the sea more than anything else. But if I was really, you know, seriously needing to or intend on filming, I'd probably go to, you know, the middle of the city or some new developments or something like that. And I'm sure that they have a different energy from the space, the suburban space that I grew up in. I think my problem now, the conceptualizing Australia, obviously is based on memory more than anything else at the moment.
Chris is working with directors who are, you know, make more personal kinds of films. It's by no means anywhere near the mainstream of Hong Kong cinema. And by the same token, he's not working on films that mainstream Hong Kong audiences go to see. I think in Hong Kong, for just your average moviegoer, they might know who Chris is, but they might not have gone to see any of the movies that he's worked on. He's certainly the only cinematographer who is famous.
I was lucky enough to have become, quote unquote, recognized, known, celebrated, or whatever in this space. So I didn't have to take it too seriously because I didn't have, you know, family reading the newspaper and just, oh, you won another award, or, oh, wow, you really did that last night, you know.
As you know, Chris is not shy before the camera. And, you know, he does some outrageous antics, so his picture gets in the paper. He'll be dancing with some starlet and holding her close, or there'll be a photograph of him kissing some guy, or something like that. So that'll make it into the tabloids. So he's quite well known. I would say in terms of his style and his personality, he certainly stands out. Oh, also, of course, he's a Westerner. I almost forgot.
He looks Western, but he's very Chinese in a way. But as a cameraman, I think we cannot define what is Chinese or Western because he's very, I would say he's very Hong Kong, which mean is he makes everything together and become his own.
人哋話拍拖嘅時候都會去行街、睇戲、食飯。今晚我同佢一齊食飯。
Chris, for me, is
alien, because you are not black hair. What? You speak Cantonese? Strange. Only in TV. On the TV, when you channel, this is take my breath away, Top Gun, but has the voiceover and into Cantonese version. This is Tom Cruise, né? With Cantonese voice, né? Good, but strange. Most of the foreigner comes to Hong Kong. Not all are hardworking. Some of them slow. Working. No, I have a afternoon break. Maybe have a coffee. After 7, I cannot work. Something like that. But Chris, maybe he stay in the Asian country all the time, working with so many Chinese people in Taiwan or in Hong Kong with a crazy director, Wong Kar-Wai. Perfect. Chinese.
So put some tape on her face here. Yeah? Yeah.
Just tape.
Yeah, just tape for the moment. Oh, that's good. Okay. Don't be afraid. Boom.
Were these all shot in the book, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, so cool book. It's for, originally they just wanted me to do something for their CD, and it got bigger and bigger. No, it's a book. It has nothing to do with the CD.
Can we play some word association then?
Sure.
Family.
Family is in Australia. Family is what other people have, and I encourage. Catholicism. I'm a recovering Catholic. Some of my best friends were Catholics.
Food.
Food? Oh, it gets in the way of drinking.
I first met Chris Doyle in Taipei 20 years ago. My husband, Philip Noyce, was doing a film for the China Film Studios in Taiwan. We met Chris in a bar, I remember, in Taipei. He'd made contact with us, of course, because we were Australians, he was Australian. He was quite a plump, very shy, rather awkward kind of boy in those days. And the most kind of significant change in him that I can think of is that he's now very thin. And also, of course, he's become much more extrovert.
What are you doing? Trying to pretend you don't know? Trying to pretend you don't know me in public?
No, I didn't see you.
Oh, yeah, I know. I wasn't wearing my glasses again. This is one of the most beautiful women in Hong Kong.
No, he's just lying.
The first time I met Chris was in a German bar. This was when I just arrived in Hong Kong, and I was there with a friend of mine from England talking about sex, just sexual peccadillos. I can remember looking at him. He was doing his homework. He was writing his Chinese characters. He obviously could overhear us, and he was laughing at our conversation, and just got involved with our conversation. So he joined us, forgot his homework, and joined us, and we carried on drinking and talking about sex, I suppose. Sex is overrated, right? It's communication that counts, you know?
Marriage.
Marriage is for other people. Thank you very much. I've been there. Been there, done it.
Belonging.
Belonging. I don't think anybody really belongs anymore. And if anybody tells you do, they're usually exploiting you, I think. Okay, well, oh really? Oh. But if Singapore doesn't change its schedule, then that's kind of conflicting, isn't it?
I need my sleep. I do. Chris is like, okay, a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there. Continue. So that energy is there. And he certainly burns it. I often wonder if he has a cattle prod voltage up his arse. It's like, just like energizing him. Spare time collage. That is his relaxation. If shooting is his drug, then collage is his downer.
Really is a piece of shit. I try to make the choices as random and haphazard as possible. I don't think about them. I just sort of, like I'm doing now, I just play with it and see what looks sort of interesting, and it sort of makes its own form on the way. And I think that's very much like the films. But for me, this is much more personal and much more, if I don't do this every day or so, then I go nuts, A lot of it's very much like language to me. Look at that, you see? Just by accident, this looks good. I don't know why. Of course, a lot of the stuff tends to be rather sexual. I wonder why. So, I don't know. So what?
All the people I know who are really genuinely, truly artists are the same. They work to take themselves out of a deep ennui, or whatever you want to call it. All the really great painters I know, they paint every day. Get up and they go to the studio and they get to it. They don't let the black dog get them.
雖然兜兜轉轉行咗好多冤枉路，我終於嚟到伊娃蘇。嗰日我好難過，因為我始終都覺得企喺呢個瀑布下面應該有兩個人。
I saw the movie Happy Together in Japan, and I really like the color that he used and also the angle or reflection of the mirror or reflection of the water. I really like it. When I was in a theater, then I thought, wow, how could he do that? And also, at the same time, I felt I wish I could do that like him.
Should I make collage with that one? This is bullshit.
Working with Chris and really that things just can be normal, natural things, but I never expect that my mobile phone can get phone call from every different part of the world.
Lots of work to do.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Super Chris.
Yes.
What do you mean you're impressed?
No, because I'm really happy to do all this stuff because you gave me lots of work.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're not going to get away. I tie you to the.
From him, I've learned we shouldn't be afraid of what we did or what we would make a mistake. So I think that's really making something or create something it should be really freedom, free mind. From him, I've learned I should express more. That's more like how to live your life. Not only the photography or artwork, I'm learning life too, not only the filmmaking.
Probably death, I guess. Please please wake me up for it, you know. I hope I'm there when it happens, you know. I don't know. I think the next significant moment, to be honest, and I have to say this in public in front of, and I'll probably cry, is probably the death of my sister. Yeah. Whew. Because I'm not there, you know. And I won't be there. And I wasn't there. So what have I done, you know? So you made some choices. And you believe in those choices. And you share them with a lot of other people. But you lose your family, you know? And I don't know what it'll do to me, you know? I hear that. No, anyway. Now we have to have a discussion about yellow lighting. Talk about yellow lighting. Okay, hello.
He always had problems. So I have to take care of all his problems, including his sex life.
I think that you realize that you're going to be lonely. You know, you've made certain choices that determine, especially people who are working in the spaces that we're working in, that you know that probably either you have to have some incredibly supportive, you know, life partner always there, you know, with someone. I think, for example, Wong Kar-Wai has, you know, in my personal world, you know, who are totally supportive and totally, you know, and sit, you know, when you go back, when it's totally not working, you know, you go back and you know, the only time he takes off his sunglasses is probably, you know, in those moments with his wife, you know. Or then you say, well, I'm going to be lonely forever, you know. And I think probably I kind of came to that conclusion sometimes. And I think, especially when you go into areas where of extreme indulgence, extreme lifestyle, or extreme experience, or, you know, quote-unquote creativity, I think that you get to a space where you say, well, I chose it, you know, so you don't blame anybody else, you know. People need people very much, so what you do is you reach out. So I think the least damage you do in reaching out, the better. You know? So I think we reach out throughout the medium of what we do, which is just, you know, a film or is a book. Big mistake, huh?
No, never. I don't regret for what I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a big mistake, you know. I'm so old. A little bit, only a little bit. But it seems that we're okay. No, I'm just trying to work out things a bit with schedules and things like that. Have you spoken to anyone? Well, I think there's two things that happen when you're, you know, quote-unquote cutting edge. You know, you cut the edge and then there's nothing left. So you say, oh, what am I going to do next? Unless someone is pushing from behind, unless you're living in an extremely eclectic culture or extremely eclectic sort of, you know, intellectual or visual world in our case, you know, then you can't move on, you know, and that's the difficult thing at the moment, I think, for people like anyone who's got to a certain point in their vision, in the way they work, in their confidence about themselves, you know.
I think it's a really big thing for him to have come here, because I remember 2 years ago he was absolutely adamant that he was Chinese and that he was only going to make films in the Chinese industry, and he was never going to, you know, come and work here. And then I remember him saying, sending me this very funny fax about selling out to Gus Van Sant. And I said, well, I know, but nobody's going to think you've sold out, Chris,
When we started prepping Psycho, it opened up the question, who would be an interesting choice to work with Gus. I brought up Chris, and Gus was familiar with his films, and said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I know Chris, and, Psycho, we're trying to do a very, regimented kind of thing here with Psycho. It's a shot-by-shot recreation of a film. That's a very precise, kind of demanding, rigid framework for a cinematographer, and I don't know, Chris Doyle, he's not somebody that you put into a box.
This is Mrs. Doyle. I'm very
And when we talked to Chris about it, he said something interesting that he's working with Wong Kar-Wai and different directors, like with Wong Kar-Wai, there's sometimes not even a script, no real shooting schedule, it's very random, and he said it would be interesting for him to work within a stricter framework. He said, I think maybe I even need this.
You're going to do the talking.
Okay. So when I got them on the phone together, and it was a late one night in Hong Kong, and we were talking to Chris on his mobile phone from some bar, and he was in good spirits, and it was a very funny conversation, which I wish I recorded. And afterwards, Gus said, "Let's get Chris," and that's his first Hollywood movie, and it really worked out.
Yeah, but it should be very close to finish.
wrapping up.
Yeah, very close to finish. It should be.
Have to bring
It's very easy to forget, what cinema can be, and you have somebody who brings, together with quite amazing personality, really, tremendous work. I mean, it's not just the shock of what is new; it's also the shock of what is possible. Now, whether the shock of what is possible intrigues Hollywood, I don't know. I definitely think the shock of the new intrigues Hollywood.
What is this press? What is this press bullshit?
I know.
What everybody is expecting from him is to be reinvigorated by his very loose and spontaneous approach to cinema. Most of the older directors, like Bernardo Bertolucci, Stephen Frears, he's now shooting a film for Barry Levinson, they're all hoping to recapture the vitality they had when they first started out, before they became so kind of into that thing of waiting all day for the right light, or doing take 200 to get that person walking through the door just where you want them to walk through. And I think everybody's hoping to be sort of somehow liberated by Chris,
Usually, the more you light, the worse it looks. so go for what looks good, and share it with the people you want to share it with. That's it. No, lighting is actually not lighting. I don't think films are about filmmaking, they're about life. So if our life has a certain energy to it, and we share it with other people, hopefully...
I pretty much led a very stoic life during the making of a remake of Psycho. And Chris, led his normal life of carousing and out all night. And he just respected that that's not where I was at. He didn't say, "Come on."
I don't want to be like Chiang Kai-shek, Hong Kong chose me. I don't want to say that kind of crap, but it's kind of true.
I don't think any sort of studio system, I don't think he would enjoy it. He needs to be responding to the art and to the filmmakers, and I don't think he'd want to be in a situation like that.
I've said that about my own Hong Kong films. I think Happy Together, without the complicity that I have with William Chung, who is the art director, I don't think you can create a look just by sort of imagining it and sort of saying, well, that's a reference to a film noir or something or whatever.
In the picture we just saw, the lamp, the rotating lamp of the waterfall, it's a light source, it's a source of color, and it also represents something as a symbol. Where did that come from?
A flea market in Buenos Aires.
And who found it?
The art director. If you're going to go out and make a student film, you say, oh shit, I have to shoot in, Santa Monica, or I have to shoot, and it's all green. And so why not make the film green? It's okay. You know, and then you say, well, Storaro says green is the color of knowledge. But this film is not about knowledge. Yeah, fuck Storaro. You thought this was a serious discussion, didn't you? Don't you think we should have some questions, just in case somebody has...
are any
in case somebody has something intelligent to say instead of me going on? They don't have anything. It proves my point.
Yes.
No, we don't. They don't have anything. They don't have anything intelligent to say.
I'm a big fan of your work. Well, I was going to ask you if I could buy you a drink or 12.
But the 12 is, yeah. Why?
Why?
It's not going to change anything. Why don't you go out and do your own fucking movie? You bitch!
Oh, well, thank you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm being, as you know, facetious. I thought it was fallacious. Anyway, please don't imitate. Don't be a fan. Please never be a fan. Do your own shit, you know. It may not be great, but it'll be yours, you know. At least it won't be an imitation of Gus Van Sant or Hong Kong Confidential. Or... Next question.
A lot of people look at this influx of Hong Kong filmmakers in Hollywood as, oh, Hollywood is opening up and it's, you know, welcoming new talent from, you know, parts of the world where it didn't use, you know, to pay much attention to. That may be true in part. But I also think there is business interests at stake. If they have people like prominent Hong Kong filmmakers who can make films that they feel can sell in the China market, that's their entree into China. So I don't think that it's all sort of, you know, let's welcome everybody. I think there's some degree of self-interest involved.
Maybe we are.
Does he have anything even remotely similar to an Australian accent?
No.
Not the slightest.
Not at all.
No.
He actually speaks Chinese.
Chris Doyle is Irish.
Than English.
He speaks Chinese with an Irish accent.
He's a true global citizen.
We got to do some research. I think the guy's from Belfast.
Where you see them, because everybody went out, where you see them going out and joining up with the two girls. His great strength is he's got a great visual sensibility, but he has a sense of storytelling, and that's what I really look for. The best in the end is if you are true to the work that you're doing, and I think he's got a genuine enthusiasm for the work that he's trying to accomplish, rather than it's a job. You know, I can make some money doing this and I'll do that. So I think that's I don't know how you want to define it, of, you know, Hollywood or anti-Hollywood. Sometimes I think those labels are a little too simplistic.
Nice caddy. I ain't seen this color before. You like it? Take it. Louis, hold again.
The Hollywood dance. We're still working. Get some red wine, please.
What we're talking about. We're saying, fuck you, crap through the ribbon, you know.
What?
It's exactly what I was in the middle.
Are you going to be working out here now?
I've done 2 films here.
She's working in a fucking diner. But she gets to dream. She gets to dream in the daytime. There's nothing wrong with a fucking daytime.
I work with Dorian Williams and Elias Merrick.
Oh, that's right.
I was married. You had like such an incredible. Well, my mom was with me, and I do wrong with so many.
Yeah, thank God you didn't come there. Thank God. It's like I mean, the Hollywood stuff is bullshit. No. Or if we're not talking truly to people, talk shit. If we don't talk, you know, if we don't talk truthfully,
It's very well balanced and it's melancholic. It's still not beautiful, nice, happy, you know, sunshine, beach, whatever. I personally don't like collages too much. You know, it's like as if he would do it to himself. You know, it's a self-destructive part of it. I mean, it's also an emotion, self-destructive. I want to destroy myself. I can relate to that feeling. Yeah, rip yourself apart. And then maybe you get over this period and just put it together again, maybe.
I absolutely see a parallel between his feature film work and his photographs, collages. I like the collages a lot. I do some collages myself, and I think these will really respond to this.
Yeah.
There's a real kind of, it's beautiful, but it's also kind of random, and I like that.
Come on, now why aren't you boyfriend?
Because I'm an artist.
The strange thing is Hollywood's never been a dream to me because, as I said, I don't think I ever thought what I'm doing as a career. I thought it was just it happened and we continued doing it. That's basically it. And then Gus Van Sant called. I just finished my own film. I felt that it would be good to get out and see how other people work because being a first-time director, you suddenly realize that there's so much that you didn't know. So it might be nice to learn a little bit from somebody who does probably know a little bit more than you. And then we went on to do a film with Barry Levinson, which is The Whole Machine. I got tired of that, and after about 3 weeks of frustration and sort of, total, mental exhaustion, I said, well, fuck it, maybe they fire me tomorrow, but I got to do it another way. And then it was a breakthrough, just like Days of Being Wild was too, I think. That as a breakthrough to the realization that filmmaking is just a small group of people. It just has a lot of machinery, a lot of paraphernalia around, So if you don't get down to that level, to that core group, then it won't work.
どこか落ち着くところへ行きたい。暗くて何の特徴もないようなところがいいな。
Anybody's first film is too personal to not get out of your system. I mean, everyone's first film has too much of you, I mean, that's why you made it. That's why you chose it as your first film. There's something incredibly important, whether it's autobiographical, whether it's a personal sort of interest in certain areas of human life or literature or a certain way of filmmaking.
At the end, the response of the people, it wasn't an uncomfortable feeling, but it was like, I don't know how to respond. I think the silence said it all.
It's kind of risky, Not many people would let a movie be so fuzzy or, and take a chance to just let it drift, because it did drift, certainly in the middle for me anyway. It sort of went all over the place.
Although it's not a particularly a story-driven film, or it's not a very commercial film, it's very poetic and beautiful at times.
可以录什么？他常常不见衣服，不知道怎么联系啊？所以我觉得都是 remembers things by setting them out on a road in his mind.
Why has it taken you this long to actually direct your own film?
Because it's a horrible job. Ask some of the people around. I think directing is,
$7:31 with FM Select. I'll tell you what, we can do that more officially like this.
Well, Krista, I must say, you're looking really good today.
I think,
Thank you very much.
呢一個 low cut 呢件 low cut 衫啦，兩條吊帶啦，同埋即係好 revealing 嘅係，我覺得值得俾啲掌聲俾 Kristen。Just for the look, you know.
I came dressed for the radio.
Wow.
Unfortunately, there's no sex in the film. I'm sorry, I have to tell you.
No, I've actually
Isn't that a pleasant surprise?
There's no violence and there is no sex.
And it has a happy ending. I mean, I'm destroying my own reputation. It's terrible.
Yeah, and also
it doesn't sound like you're not from all reports.
And also, something that I really want to see about a local movie happens in this movie 就係兩個 scene 啊。第一個咧就係喺 7-Eleven 裏邊咧 ，why no one ever capture the real life in 7-Eleven? The name of the movie is Away with Words. It is being exhibited at the Cannes Film Festival.
If egg is an old lady, then a chicken is her stick. And this blue lamp, that's my auntie. It's the color of her hair.
It's an elusive film in a way.
Of course, it's a little bit too personal for most people. I'm sure it's a bit about... My problem is I don't care enough about narrative, you know. I mean, whenever I see a film, I see the people behind the film rather than the content of the film. So I guess that's kind of colored my own perception of how a film could be made. And of course, I've done 30 feature films as cinematographer. So obviously, I'm more interested in imagery than content, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, especially in this particular period of cinema history where the kids are not really, I'm sorry, you know, all due respects to Olivier Assayas and everyone at Karena Cinema, but the kids are not reading Karena Cinema. And what the film schools are teaching is not really relevant anymore to the actual visual experience of most people who are on the internet at least, 3 or 4 hours a day, watching music videos all the time. So people's visual experience is changing.
Okay, so you've been working as a director of photography?
Yeah, don't tell my mother.
So what's the most difficult thing for you to work as a director of film?
Is I didn't give because I was my own cameraman, and so I didn't give my cameraman enough time.
Welcome to the Airport Express. Please put your baggage on the rack or under your seat. 欢迎乘坐机场快线。
Since I'm supposedly making a book of images, I try to relate womanliness to things like color. Anyway, I think the stuff I like most is usually like the sequences. I think that says a lot. Since I come from motion pictures, I find it very difficult to trust the single frame. You know, up until recently, I'd never taken up a still camera anyway. I wasn't interested. I always thought still imagery was already dead. You know, but I think moving pictures move. You know, because they're moving. They're moving because they move. Whatever. So I don't know. I don't have that obsession with the integrity of the image. You know? That's why I usually sort of try to destroy it as much as possible. That's about it. Kill me! Okay. So, anything that is original like this, make one cheap and one color 6 copy, okay? Well, whatever, yeah, whatever, you know what I mean. Okay, so anything like that, anything that is original, this is original, okay? Secondly, you got everything? Okay. 这个，然后这里有个闪光，刚好也本来是这个了。你到时候我翻过来，当然这个是开的。有。不是看见里面的东西。Maybe I'm a child of the 60s or something. Maybe I really do believe that any experience is valid. I want to get in a dangerous situation to remind myself what life is about. I think things like courage are also valid to creative work. You'll never learn courage unless you get into a situation where you need courage. I think that's probably what I'm pushing for, to find how much guts I have. I've done too many films too quickly in the last few years that I think that I haven't lived enough. As I said many times, you can't learn filmmaking from film school or from other people's films. You can learn filmmaking from life. And so I think it's a right moment in my life to live a little bit more dangerously than I have so far. turn off the TV and get back to the beer.